Okay, we are back over at the bench. This is the EvoTech frame sliders. So this is for Aprilia Tuono 660 factory. This is part number PRN015476. So we're going to open it up, see what we got here. Not taped closed. I'm assuming that's because it came in my box of other ones. This looks like a bag of bolts. That's exactly what it is. So some of this stuff actually fell out of here. All right, so we've got another bolt just rummaging around. So there's the bolts. Another part. Another part. All right, that's puck. Guessing these are both sliders. Slider sleeve. So you can see that that goes in there. Man, these feel burly as hell. That goes in there. Plastic piece here. Another bolt. I'm just going to defensively put all the bolts inside the box so I don't lose them. That's actually a big ass bushing. That's a big bushing, not a plate. All right. And that is a frame rail. Also a frame rail. So you can start to see how it all is going to fit together here. This guy has a bushing on the end, slightly raised piece here. That's going to go into that slot. You can see that definitely. That's going to go in there. Or from this side maybe. Yep, it's threaded. So there were no instructions, so this will be really fun. This goes in here. Gets a hex key. You just hammer that down. I'm assuming that the EvoTech will go up, so this will be on the right side of the bike. This one will be the left side of the bike, assuming the EvoTech faces upward. You know, everybody wants their good propaganda. So now I just gotta go figure out how this goes on the bike itself, given the lack of instructions. I'm gonna see if they got a PDF on their website or something I can download and make that work. So I will be pausing this for a bit and going to figure out how the hell this goes on the bike. See you in a few. So I found the instructions for this thing online. It's a PDF. I think it is quite possibly the worst instructions I have literally ever seen. I think interpretive dance might actually be more effective than the instructions in that PDF. It's this weird line art. I think whoever designed the install process or thought about documenting it had a son who at the time was going through art school in high school, and they did pencil drawings. So they created pencil drawings of the bike. And I will probably edit in some of this impressionistic art for the install instructions for you into the video to make it a little more clear as to what I'm talking about. But I actually had to walk around the bike to figure out even what parts of the bike they were talking, like holding the PDF up on my phone and staring at the bike going, is that part of the bike? And you're trying to figure out what they're saying. So this is going to be a very entertaining install process. I think IKEA furniture has better instructions than the install for this. So here's what I figured out. So the way these fit together is there are a couple of these green pieces. Let's take the parts out for you real quick, because I think there's another problem, but I'm hoping to God I'm wrong. So each side comes with this thing, and there's a green washer. So you put the green washer on these. That's how this will all eventually go together. That's how I tend to operate. I want to see what is this going to look like when I'm done? So there's a short one and a long one, first of all. I've got to figure out which side is which. I'm sure it'll be obvious when I get everything put on and I go to put them on. One side will be longer than the other. So I'll hopefully document that a little later. These guys, the green washer slides up against here. So it's basically anti-vibration is what it looks like. And then this badass looking little washer goes on the bolt. You'll see it fits that bolt hole very nicely, the bolt head. So the bolt head will recess into this washer. And then this drops down in here. And that's how that goes. And then this will end up getting screwed onto here. But that's like the last step of the process. So I put these together to try to keep them together, just so they're not going to be wandering all over with different little parts. And it's the long bolts. So we put that in there. We grab our little washer. Right here, we grab our little washer. That goes on there. And that's just to keep the parts in place as I try to figure out how all this fits. There is also a long bolt and a short bolt. So clearly, I need to flip these two. Yeah, so there's a long bolt that'll come all the way through and a short bolt that fits through the short one. All right, so if you put those backwards, the bolts aren't long enough. This is almost certainly the right side, based on what I've seen. We're gonna figure out how to mount this up in a minute. So this is almost certainly the right side. And you can see that I need a bolt here, and then there's this other tiny little bolt that appears to go right there. No washer. I think that's going to be hooked onto something that's already on the bike. This piece, I was trying to figure out if it hooks onto here. I'm still trying to figure out the picture. I'm hoping it becomes more obvious when I get down to the bike as to where that goes. But what I noticed immediately was that I appear to be missing a bolt. So this would be the left side. This bushing appears to be a spacer for a part we're going to take off the left side of the bike. I think it's the left side of the bike. Put that in there. But you'll note I only have 3 bolts. There's a spot where they show OEM bolts. So I'm wondering if one of these bolts is going to reuse an OEM bolt. So like I said, these are possibly the worst instructions I've ever seen. And I've had a lot of bad instructions in my life. So we're going to try to figure this out today. You'll notice it's not the same day as when I started the video, when I unboxed it. I got the paddock bobbins on, and I put the axle sliders on. All right, so I'm going to start with the right side because it looks more complex, and hopefully it'll be more obvious, and then it'll help me with the left side a little bit so it won't be so bad on the left side. So, like I said, worst instructions ever. I'm going to try to edit some of those instructions in so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So the first thing we have to do is remove this fairing right here. The slider is going to go right down here, so we've got to remove this whole piece right here, this whole thing. So this is held in by a couple of hex head nuts, 4mm hex head nuts. You've got to remove this panel, and then you've got to remove some body clips underneath, which I'll show you from the bottom side. So step 1, and I apologize, I'm going to have to be in your way here, is to remove 3 screws. There's one here. Oh, and danger note for you. I've worked on the Gold Wing a lot, and you drop a lot of screws on that thing and they fall down in the bike and it's horrible. So you end up with a magnetic retriever. So danger note, these screws are non-ferrous. So if you drop this screw down in that bike, you are not retrieving it with a magnet. So you need to be very, very careful. I always preach this, but I use a plastic bucket little thing to hold everything so I don't ever lose any parts. So we just took this screw out, we got to take this screw out, and then there's one in here we got to take out. So now we got to take this one out. Again, apologize I get in your way here. There's no good way to do this from a camera perspective. And then this one here is back in a hole. Really hard to get to. There's a wire here I gotta kind of push out of the way. And this one here, because of where it's at and because I'm super paranoid about dropping it, I am not going to pull this screw out. I'm going to leave my screwdriver in. Actually, I'm going to use my finger. I'm going to put my finger in hole in front of this screw because I don't want to fish this thing out of here, and then pull this panel out. So we've pulled that panel out. Take my screw out of here now. And you'll note there are two different screw sizes. The short one goes up on the top. There are two long screws. I don't know if you can see that down there. There's two long screws and a short screw. So I'm going to set this aside. So we removed that. Now I need to start removing the actual panel itself. So there is a hex head here that I got to pop off. Like so. And then there's a body clip back here. These are a little different than the ones I'm used to. So you're just gonna pop the edge of this body clip up, and I'll pull it out and show it to you. Then you just kind of got to lift it out of its place. All right, so now we're looking at the front end of the bike from the bottom. There are 3 body panel clips that you've got to pull out. There's one here, and one here. So we got to pull these 3 body panel clips. And then we got one more hex head, and then the scary part starts. So again, the way these work is they're pushed down when you first see them on the bike. There's a little slot, so you put your screwdriver in there and you break that little slot loose, and then you can pull it out. Sometimes they're a little stiff, so don't be afraid to pull on them a little bit. Just be careful you don't damage your body panels. So same thing here, I'm going to pop this one out. That's 2 of them. And then the last one is down here in the back, just in front of the radiator. So you got to pull these 3 out. You do not need to pull this one out. That one holds this clip on. So it's just 3. You got one here, and one here. So those 3 are off, and you can see now the body panel is starting to get loose. So we've got one more screw to pull off on this side, one more hex head. I'll roll you around the side here so you can take a look with me. All right. So I just moved you around the side, so we're on the right side of the bike, obviously. This is the last hex head we got to take off, so we're just going to crack it loose, like so, and then pull it off. Put all our little parts in the bucket so I don't lose anything. All right, so now we've got to get this piece off right here because our part's going, it looks like something mounts right here. We're going to pop this cap off, and there's something going on over here. This is coming off, so there's just a lot happening that I need to figure out still. So if you pull this now, it's pretty darn loose. We've moved around the side to the front corner here, and you can see right here, there are 2 little tabs. We've got all the screws and body panels off, and this whole thing wants to come off. But there are 2 little tabs here, so what you're going to want to do is push in on those a little bit and try to work this thing out of here. Just try to unhook these guys. Ah, there you go. And it comes right out. So we now have the body panel off, and we've exposed the side of our bike. This next part is definitely unpleasant. Here's what we're trying to do. This piece goes right here, and then you're going to remove this, and you're going to put a bolt through here. So you need to get this in here, but this plastic piece is a brace that holds wires off of the exhaust so they don't melt onto the exhaust. So pretty critical. So they give you this piece here, which is going to replace that piece. And this just gets screwed through here. They give you a bolt that holds that on. And then this wire will get screwed in right here. So that's what you're doing. This goes here. This goes here. This goes on the back of this to replace this one. And then this is where this screws in. So that's what you're trying to do. So the problem is, or the challenge, is this is all really tight working space. So step 1, we're going to remove this guy. It's a 2.5 millimeter hex. Now I have an aftermarket exhaust put on. I've got a MIV exhaust. Love this thing, by the way. It sounds sick as hell. I don't know that it does much for performance. It definitely hasn't been tuned because I'm getting backfires which means I've got unburned fuel, and I dropped that washer in the bottom again. So there is a spacing washer. There we go. There's a spacing washer that goes in here. Let's see if I can find it again. Fortunately, this washer is magnetic, so I'm able to fish it out. It's a weird little washer. You don't actually need this when you get done, I don't think. I'll see when I start putting it back together. I just spent a while trying to figure out even what the crazy-ass instructions were telling me to do. All right, so we just removed this screw here, and the key is we're trying to get this bracket out so we can replace it. So what the instructions will tell you to do is you got to remove this boot right here. You just pull this boot up, and you can see an electrical connector right there. So we need to disconnect that. There we go. All right. Now what the instructions are going to tell you to do is you got to pull this out, because you can see the wire right here that we're trying to move. This is the wire we got to get out of the way because it's going to bind everything up. So the instructions will tell you to just pull this down. That is not going to work. And the reason is it's actually connected on the back side right here. I don't know if you can see in there. Right here is a push pin connector. So I can't really get you a good angle in there. You're going to have to get a screwdriver in there and pop it, because you can't actually, normally you pull these off from two sides. So I can't even show you this because I definitely need both my hands here. And you're clearly floating in the air on the camera. You are not on a tripod right now. So I'm going to put the camera down real quick, and I'm going to pop that out of there and show you. All right, so you can see what we were doing is there's a clip hole back here. Don't know if you can actually see that with the light. But this guy goes on there. So from the top, what you're trying to do is push these pins in so you can pull this thing out. And I was able to get a screwdriver in and pop one side out. It's not symmetrical like I would normally see on another bike or another body clip. So I think that's how it's actually designed to be. It's pushed in from this side so you can pull it out. So it sits in like this. You push in on this side with a flathead, and you can kind of work it out. Be gentle, because you need that clip as it holds that wire up out of the way. So now the next stage here is we need to get this guy out. So we've got our wire out of the way. And what they show is you're going to put your finger back in here. Maybe you just have better fingers than I do, but you can kind of see maybe through this hole. I really need a lot of light down low. What you're trying to do is release another one of these guys, this clip right here. It's exactly the same as this clip. You need to push in and pull up. The problem is everything moves too much. I even tried putting the screw back in. So what I ended up trying to do was working this whole thing out while it was still connected. You've got a wire down low right here that's pinned in, and I'll show you when I pull it out what you need to do to get that off. But it's pinned in back here on this connector, right back here. So you need to get this wire out. And again, what you do is you're going to take a flathead, and I'll show you. Take a flathead and be very gentle and work this wire out of that clip. What we're trying to do is work this guy out of here. We got to be careful we don't chew our wires up. But I found that I could kind of work this out sideways a little bit and then get the bottom out. And then once I get the bottom out, I can kind of slowly work the top out so I can disconnect everything. Like that. There you go. So this is the connector they want you to remove from behind this pole. And my fingers, man, my meat hooks are just way too big to get back there. Once you get it out, it's really easy. But you can see you're still clipped on right here. You've got another one of those little hook clips right here. So we're going to grab our flathead again, push one of the sides in. And this is what you're trying to do with that one on the top, by the way. You're just going to try to push this in so you can work it out of the hole. And then it just kind of works its way out. So this is the piece. And you can see here, this is where that wire runs. It's going to run right through this little gap right here. And you can see there's a hook. So what you need to do from outside is get a screwdriver in there and get this thing out of the way so you can pull the wire out the bottom. Now that I understand all of this, and I know I'm going to replace this with the piece they gave me, I would almost just break this thing out of there. I don't like doing that because I always pretend I'm going to put OEM parts back on. So now what we need is this piece, which is going to go back in there. And you can see we're supposed to reuse that piece right there. So we're going to put that in there. And then we need to slide everything back up in there. Now they made theirs a lot, is dainty the right word? A lot smaller. Their hook is better. They've got another hook down here for the wire to feed under. So when we get back in here, I got to feed this wire under. So I feed that wire underneath their clip. Everything looks like it'll fit a lot better with the replacement pieces. And I'm not sure how much of this was a pain because I've got the MIV exhaust and maybe it moved the EGR, the valve down here, the electrical valve, the exhaust gases. So I got to do the same thing here. Got to find my screwdriver. Got to carefully wedge this wire back underneath this hook. So I'm going to spread it up with my screwdriver, and I'm going to slide the wire under. And you need to do this because this wire is going to be, if you don't have this wire secured, it's going to lay up against your exhaust. And you'll be probably running for 30 minutes before your bike just turns off. All right, so now I've got that wire back in there. I'll try to zoom in and edit this so you can actually see it, but the wire is now back in there. Now I need to hook this back up. Just not a whole lot of space to work back up in here. There we go. Now I hook that back up. Now I'm going to try to get this guy to behave itself and get back in the hole for me. I'll probably have to do like I did on the other one and tilt it up in. You know what I'm getting hooked on is that wire down there. I blame Aprilia for this. This is way too tight. There we go. So now you can see over here what they've done is they've moved it. And it's because we need to reuse this hole for the bracket, so they've moved this up out of the way and hooked it into the bracket. So that's what they've actually done, is they've just moved stuff around. So the bracket is going to come in here, and you can see it's going to just slide right in those two holes. And then this guy's going to bolt up to this guy, right? This guy's going to bolt up right here. So that's all we've did. So now we got to put our wires back up top. The instructions just say, reverse steps 28 to 13. okay. So make sure you're looking in the right spot there. So we're going to feed this wire back up through right here. And we're going to push it back in the little clip hole like that. And then we're going to push this back down on top. And then we're going to slide our boot down. And man, I guarantee you need the boot right here because you are right above the wheel right here. So if you're out in the rain, you are going to be sending a lot of rain down in there. Radiator cap came off there. So I want to make sure I slide this boot all the way back down onto that connector to protect it from water. So you can see I've got it all the way back down. So if water splashes up in there, that connector is watertight still. So now what I need to do is grab a 16 millimeter, and I'm going to be taking this bolt off. So we're popping this bolt is what adapted this bolt that was in the engine right here is what adapted, so the screw that held this little guy on was in place. So I don't think I will reuse this hardware, I'm sure, in just a second. But I do not need the plastic piece I pulled out of here. I do not need. So if you're really struggling in there, I actually thought about it, getting 10 snips and actually breaking that plastic up with just a 10 snip clip it. Because if you were to clip like this piece off or back here off without breaking the wire, it would come out a hell of a lot easier. You can see it's wrapped around here really tightly. So it's really tough to get in there. Now we need to remove this guy back here. It's just a cap, it looks like. Hang on. All right, I'm gonna have to figure out how to pull that off real quick. I don't want to scratch everything up. I want it to stay pretty for a while. It's a new bike. Okay, so this was a pain in the ass. This whole process has been a pain in the ass, but this is a ripping pain in the ass. So there was the plastic cap that was here that I had to remove. And that cap, when I got up underneath of it and I popped it off, the head actually came off. So it left the plastic shaft down inside the bolt hole. So I spent the better part of an hour slowly trying to dig that out. I heated it up. I used a very fine drill bit to try to drill into it so I could grip it. That didn't work. I ended up just basically tearing it apart in the hole. I was really worried I was going to mess the threads up. So that was a little intense for me. So you need these two here. You're going to put these in a little bit loose. They're 8mm hex heads. So you're going to put them in just a little bit loose so you can move it around, because you got to line this one up. That's a 5mm hex head, and it holds this piece in with the wire that we mounted into the back. So that's back in place. And then this one is the 2.5mm hex that held the clutch cable in place that we took off initially. So that's it here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some cleanup here because I got tools all over the place from digging out the plastic. And I'm going to put this fairing back on and then flip to the other side and put the brace on, and then I'll put the slider on. I can tell you that I'm at 2.5 hours right now on this, and I was not expecting it to take near this long. It is one of the more challenging only because the instructions are the worst in the world. It took me forever to figure some of that out, and then I ripped the plastic cap off. So I guess I'm just kind of whining right now. So don't listen to me too much, but put this fairing back on. It's a few bolts, screws, and body panel clips. So I'm going to clean up real quick, and I'll be right back. So back on the side of the bike here, we're going to go ahead and put the fairing back on. Remember, you got these two tabs that have to line up. This tab here has to go above, and this same with this one, it has to go above. So you want to make sure that you're looking up here and you're lining that up as you push these in, and the whole thing will just kind of slide right in where it goes. So it takes a little bit of patience to make sure you're all good. We've got that lined up. We'll put the 3 body clips in since they're underneath here where we can get to them. The way you put these in is you pull this pin out. It's the easiest way I've found. You find your hole, which is right. We'll put it in this bottom one first. Right here. Oh, maybe this one. Find one that lines up. There we go. You put that in, then you just push the push pin into the center all the way down until it clips into place, and you'll hear it click. It's really not very hard. I would spin the camera around and show you the bottom side. It's a little easier to see, but pain in the ass. So put this one in. And again, the tip just slides in the hole. Now we just take the little sharp point, we put it inside the clip, and we push it till it snaps. Clicks in, we're done. One more, we're going to pull the pin out of the middle. We're going to find our little hole. Push the thick part in, take our little pin, push it right in the center until we hear it clip, like that. All right, I'll move up top here so you can see what I'm doing. Brought you back up top here. We're gonna put this body panel clip in and this screw in, then we have one more screw to put in on the side. So Again, we take our little body panel clip, we pull it apart. This part goes in first, so we just push that through the hole. Make sure everything's lined up. That's the whole point of these. Then we take the push pin, we push it right down the center, clips in, and that's done. We grab our 4mm hex. There are two sizes for these. There are two sizes for these little guys. You'll notice one is like slightly longer than the other one. The slightly longer one goes on the side, the shorter one goes on the top. So we're gonna screw that in right there. That'll hold in the fairing. And then we're gonna put the one on the side, which you can't really see from there. But I'm gonna leave you there because we're gonna put the piece back in the front, but put this one back in the side. And then we need the piece that goes right here. Last time I did this, it was a little tedious. So we just want to slide this in here so that we can get our screws on it. Just like that. Now remember, we had 3 screws with 2 different sizes. So the little short one went up top. So I'm going to go ahead and put one of the long ones in first on the side. I'm going to put this one in first. It feels like the one that would line everything up. So we just put that in there and screw it down. I'm going to grab the shorty, which goes up top. Right in here. So we're just going to run that in. And then we're going to grab the other long one. This one's a bit of a blind hole. That's interesting. We move some stuff around here. All right, so we just screw that in. And that's it for this side. We still have to put the slider on, but I'm going to do the left side first so I know which slider goes on which side. One is longer than the other. I think it'll be obvious when I get to it, which one it is. Well, you got to do all the same things. You got to take this piece off and the fairing off the other side. So I'm going to flip the bike around so it's a little easier to work on and it's facing the inside of the garage. Okay, we're on the left side. I've just pushed the bike back. I didn't bother to turn it all the way around. So we do the same thing on this side we did the other side. We've got to remove this piece and the fairing, which is 3 screws, 2 hex keys, and some body panels. 4 total body panels. Pins. So I'm just gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna take these out. Remember, these are not magnetic, so be very careful. And of course, I say that almost guaranteeing I will drop one. It's up in here. So we're gonna put a stubby in there. This one sketches me out, but if it drops, it's gonna hit the floor, I assume, based on how it's laying. 1, 2, oh, and then this one up here. So again, these are not magnetic. Be cautious. Tilt those up. I'm gonna grab the 4mm hex. Goes right here. Side's less pleasant to work on, that's for sure. Get down here and get the hex out. Pop this body panel clip off, which you just pop the head up. And then you try to get under it and lift it out. of the hole. This one's a little tedious because you're lifting up on a piece of plastic that flexes right here. Now in the instructions, near as I can tell, they tell you to do both body panels at the same time. I just did them one side at a time. It seemed like a more intelligent way to do it. All right, so I moved this up underneath. There are 3 body panel pins on this side, one here, and one here. So the same thing as up top. We're just gonna pop the centerpiece out, and you just kind of put your screwdriver behind it and you pop it out. That's 1, 2, 3. All right, you can see the body panel is already loose. So the body panel wants to come off. So I just grabbed a little body panel tool. If you work on bikes, you definitely need these. There we go. Got one to go. There we go. I just need to get them pop out. There we go. All right, popped out. So now we got the body panel out of the way. I think I've kind of figured out where they're going to be putting this, but I'm going to be spinning it around here on the side so I can check. Back in a few. Okay, so back on the left side of the bike. This guy goes back in here. This took me a minute to figure out. After I pulled this hellish thing out, we pulled the OEM bolt out. We are going to reuse this OEM bolt. We don't get an extra bolt with this. So the way this works is you've got this little spacer. You've got to get this spacer and this piece of aluminum right in here. So the way I found kind of works is to put the spacer in, slide the bolt up till it's just kind of flush with the back of the spacer, which keeps the spacer from dropping. And then you just kind of want to work this in here. Once you can get the piece in, it'll slide through the hole when it gets lined up. So now we're trying to do this, line the hole up. So there we go. So now we've got that lined up. Now we want to grab this guy, put it back in here. Both of these get tightened to 50 Newton meters. So I'll grab my torque wrench in just a second. Really should grab an extension. All right, I'm just going to snug that up because I want to make sure this is lined up before I go crazy with it. So this is our 8mm hex. All right. All right, we get 50 there. Get 50 there. All right, so now this frame is on. That was much easier than the other side. The other side was like a little bit of a construction project. So now we're just gonna put the fairings back on and the sliders and we're done. Okay, so I'm gonna start this time from the front here. I'm gonna put these bottom body panel clips in first. Again, remember we've got these 2 tabs right here we've got to deal with. So we're going to put these up in here. We're going to make sure that our plastic parts are above the mating parts on the top side. Push our little tabs in. This side went in a lot more compliant. So put these in. Again, we're going to pop the little pin out of the middle. If we can. Pop the little pin out of the middle. And then we're going to push this in, and then we push the body pin in until it clips like that, and it's in. So we just take these apart, push it in the hole, push the pin in until it clicks. Last one, we got one more up top to do, and then we're just putting in 2 screws, and we'll be putting pucks on here in a minute, I hope. Trying to do this a little blind. Here we go. All right, now we're gonna go up top. I'm gonna put this body panel clip in. I got a bolt here to put in, and I got one on the side here to put in. So, body panel clip, again, these are easy. You take it apart, pop the pin out like so, then you put the piece in the hole to line it up. Everything goes well, it lines right up. Then you push the pin in to lock it down until it snaps. Grab your 4mm hex. There are 2 of these. There's a short one and a long one. Oh, on this side they look the same actually. Put this one up top. Tighten that down. We got pop the one on the side here. You don't really need to see this. This is taking so much longer than it should have taken. Just a set of instructions would help. Actually, what I needed was, most of my time was spent on that stupid plastic body panel clip. All right, we'll grab our screwdriver. We're going to slide this guy back in place behind everything. I will probably need the stubby again. I'm going to put the shorty in first. The shorty goes... Actually, no, I'm going to put one of the long ones in first. I'll put a long one in first. I was going to do the short one first, but I need a shorty screwdriver for that. There we go. Then I'm going to put the shorty in. The short one goes up top in the center, right here. Run that down. I'm going to make sure this is tight. Pop the handlebars over. Hopefully you guys can still see. Yeah, so the shorty goes right in here. Or not a shorty, sorry, this is a long one. I'm getting tired. This is the hard part though. We got to make sure that we get it in the hole. It's kind of a blind hole. You just run that in until it's tight. That's on. Now we just got to put pucks on, the actual sliders. Now we're down to the actual sliders. So, I'll be right back. Okay, so we are up top here, down to the final stage. We got to put these guys in. I showed you how to put them together first, early on. There's a bright green washer that goes in between the slider and the spacer. And then there's a washer that goes inside these guys. So, looking at this, you'll note that there are 2 different sizes for these. There's about a 1/2 inch of length difference in the one in my right hand. And it looks to me, I dry fitted these, and it looks to me like it goes on the left-hand side because that rail sits further in than the rail on the right side. So I'm going to pop them in that way. That's the way it makes sense. The instructions, of course, don't say. They leave it up to the installer to figure that out. There you go. So pretty straightforward, 10mm hex. You're just going to drive this down. One picture shows these at 40 Newton meters. The other one just says tighten it down. So I'm going to go ahead and use 40 Newton meters. That seems reasonable. I want to check these. I feel like these should have thread lock on them. and I'm not 100% sure. So I'm gonna pop that back in there. Tighten it down. I'm gonna grab my torque wrench. 40 Newton meters. Grab this guy. Hit 40 Newton meters, and I'll do the other side off camera. That's it. Finally, these beasts are on. It's not actually bad. The hard part was just figuring out how the fairing came off and then figuring out how those plastic pieces came out. The rest was just really tedious. You've got the tight cables down here that are really hard to see. So that the tight cabling you saw in that other piece of the video where you're coming out of here and going down into here. It's just two connectors you have to remove, and then you gotta like really work it out of there. I'm hoping my clutch cable didn't change up a little. I might end up having to adjust my clutch cable because the cable gets rerouted here a little bit. That's it. Finally done with this. I'll probably go for a ride today just to chill. I actually wanted to get these on because I want to go do some low-speed practice on this bike and see how it maneuvers differently from my other bikes. So I'll need to drag cones with me and stuff. So, all right, have a good one. That's it. Finally made a video of this. I couldn't find one online, so I decided to make this video. Have a good one.